Good Thursday, family and friends. This is our weekly message coming out from Our Lady of the Valley and Holy Cross parishes on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. You know, this morning when I was watching the news before I came over to church, one of the reporters was in Tampa, Florida, and the sun was shining brightly. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. I mean, you would never have known by looking at that picture on the TV this morning that a hurricane had gone through that part of Florida last evening. But we continue to pray for the people of Florida. We pray for them. We pray with them. You know, they're still recovering from Hurricane Helene, and now they have to start all over again recovering from Hurricane Milton. It's going to take some time, but again, we keep them in our prayers. We want them to be strong, and we want all the parts of the state to be restored, and hopefully there'll be very limited liability of death. I think this morning they said there were 4 people killed from Hurricane Milton, but I'm sure unfortunately that number will probably rise. But we keep them in our prayers, them and all the areas of our country that are undergoing severe any kind of weather. But I want to begin this afternoon by first thanking our fire department, our police department, and PSC&G for their quick response this past Sunday morning to our mishap here at Our Lady of the Valley. And of course, I didn't know anything about what's happening because I was over at our other parish of Holy Cross celebrating the 10 a.m. Mass. But when Mass was over, I looked at my phone and I saw that there were several missed phone calls and text messages. So I quickly got back here to find out what had happened. I want to also thank you, our parishioners, for your quick exit from the church and school, and for your understanding that we had to cancel the 10 a.m. and 12 noon Masses. I know that some of you quickly went up the road to Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish for their 12 noon Mass. I even called Father Matt, the pastor there, to tell him, you might have a few more people at your 12 noon Mass, and I quickly filled him in on what had happened here at Our Lady of the Valley. We want you to know, though, that the source of the carbon monoxide problem has been identified, and repairs are underway even as I'm speaking to you this afternoon. Those repairs might take a couple days, but they're undergoing right now because it took us a little while to figure out what the source of the leak was. But I said those repairs are now undergoing. There's a whole crew of people downstairs in the boiler room at the lower level of the school making those repairs, so everything will be up and running again soon. But please know that the church and the school are safe to be in even while these repairs are being made, so don't worry about that. And along with that, you know, many of you received an email from us on Sunday morning, a blast email explaining some things that happened and that we had to cancel the 10 a.m. and 12 noon Mass. And the diocese is now using a system called HubSpot. You might remember in the past, the system the diocese was using was called Flocknote. But that's how we were able to send out this blast email to you on this Sunday morning. But with HubSpot, we can also send out text messages as well, a text message blast. So moving forward, if we ever have to send out any important message pertaining to something happening here at Our Lady of the Valley or Holy Cross, we will do both an email and a text message. Because I'm sure on Sunday morning, as you were getting ready to come to church for the 10 a.m. Mass or the 12 noon Mass, you weren't looking at your computer to see what email had come in. So that's why we think it's important to do both an email and a text message to your phone. So we'll be doing that moving forward, in case there's some kind of emergency that we have to let you know about here at Our Lady of the Valley or Holy Cross. This will hopefully ensure that the majority of our parishioners will get that message out to them as soon as possible. So some things as we move forward. First of all, I want to thank you all for those who participated in the Knights of Columbus Polish Night. It was a huge success with wonderful food and entertainment. Also, if you would like to order a copy of the 2025 St. Joseph Mass Missal, please call the parish office before October 21st. Missals are $4.25, and they must be pre-ordered. We will not be ordering extras to have available in the office, so they must be pre-ordered. As I mentioned last week, the Christmas raffle forms have been mailed out. We've actually received, unfortunately, several of them returned to us by the post office saying they were undeliverable as addressed. And so if by chance you have moved and did not tell the parish offices your new address, please call the parish office and let us know your new address so we can get those things corrected in the parish census. Finally, tomorrow is probably one of my favorite feast days of the liturgical year. We celebrate the feast day of Pope St. John the 23rd, or as he was affectionately known, Good Pope John. And it is also the 67th anniversary of the first session of the Second Vatican Council that Pope John called. In a way, the second session of the Synod on Synodality that's now going on over in Rome this month is a way of continuing the things that the council called for. Because even now, 60 years later, we are still discovering all that the council called the church to be. And so at the end of this month, when the second part of the synod ends and all the reports and documents are made and the Pope does his final evaluation, we'll have to see how we're going to move forward again as church into this century. And many of these things began with the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s. And it was a wonderful time for the church from 1962 to 1965. But I want to end with two, at least I think they're cute little stories about Pope John the 23rd that really, I think, give me an inclination to the type of person, the wonderful personality he had. You know, shortly after he was elected Holy Father in 1958, he was giving an interview with a journalist from the BBC, the British Broadcasting. And it was probably one of the first interviews that a pope did, because back then, you know, popes didn't do interviews with journalists. It just didn't happen. But he decided to give one, and he and the journalists were walking down one of the hallways in the Vatican, and many people were scurrying about, priests and sisters and bishops and cardinals, going in and out of the various offices along the hallway. And the journalist said to Pope John, "Holy Father, how many people work here at the Vatican?" And without missing a beat, he said, "Oh, about half of them." And they both began to laugh. So I love that little story. But the other one has to do with the start of the Second Vatican Council. I said he was elected Holy Father in 1958. And in 1959, he announced that he was calling a council. And he explained to the cardinals who were assembled there all the things that he wanted this council to do for the church and the world. And they said to him, "You know, Holy Father, this is going to take us at least 5 years to get ready for." And so he looked at them all and he said, "Oh, that's very good. Then we'll begin in 3. And that's exactly what they did. The council began in 1962 and concluded in 1965. And we're still finding the fruits of that council in the different documents and the way the church is growing and changing all this time. You know, someone once told me it takes a minimum of at least 100 years for things that any council does to really come to fruition and take effect. And so we're still in that 100-year period after the Second Vatican Council. But tomorrow we get to celebrate good Pope John. So enjoy these rest of these days of this week, and we'll see you here this weekend, either at Our Lady of the Valley or at Holy Cross.